Okay. Okay, so we have Pat, Tanny, and Jheen. Okay. Okay, so we have attendees joining in. So I think, yeah, it's like almost 9:32 Pacific time, so we can get started. Okay. Very good morning to all of you. Thank you so much, Pat. Thank you so much, Annie. Thank you so much, Jheen, joining us this morning in this wonderful Food and Beverage E-Summit 2020. Uh, we really appreciate you taking out this time, and we really want to ensure that we as a company would like to contribute to the food and beverage community through the knowledge that we can share together. So I would like to begin with the introduction of our panelists this morning. So first, I would like to begin with Annie. Uh, Annie Blake is the VP of Sales at Cocktail Kingdom, partner at Death or Glory Bar. Cocktail Kingdom offers a full spectrum of professional and custom barware, artisan bitter, and syrup fit for the most discerning bartender. Uh, Let me move to Jheen. Jheen is a co-founder at Susosu Water. He's based out of Washington, D.C. Susosu Water is an all-natural mineral water from the springs of South Korea, infused with extra hydrogen molecules for many health benefits. Then we have Pat with us this morning. Pat is the CEO at Decernis, sorry. Decernis is a compliance management platform for food and consumer product industries. Pat is the chief executive officer and founder of the company, and Pat has also worked with largest manufacturers and key governmental agencies internationally to develop improved compliance management systems for food, chemical, and consumer product with global safety requirements. Extremely essential part of the food and beverage industry. So moving on, Pat, I would like to start with you.
Okay.
If you can just add to what I have mentioned and give us a little insight into what you do and why are you into this business, if you can.
Well, why I'm into this business, I've been fascinated with problems of how do large companies comply with complex regulations about product delivery. For many, many years, I've had founded and sold two companies in this space and was involved with some of the development of the chemical legislation that came out of the US Congress early on. And the interest there is to ensure that products are safe, but the way in which manufacturers try and come to grips with early stage innovation and late stage product delivery is really complex, because if you are looking at a global market, you have restrictions that apply to those products that differ from country to country. So it's like a large crossword puzzle. So when you have a global market across 200 countries, the consumer requirements drive product restrictions that differ, whether they're the additives that go in or the packaging around a beverage or a food. So in addition to governmental restrictions, if you want to sell a product to a customer in an industrial setting, there are many, many questionnaires as a condition of sale. So the combination of the governmental restrictions with the contractual restrictions on delivery make it a very complex and interesting area. And what we do is we have experts that help with consulting services as well as systems that help to determine compliance of a product formulation in a enterprise setting.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a really, really important thing. Keeping in mind the requirements, the regulatory requirements for food and beverage industry. That's really amazing. Let me hand it over to Annie. Annie, if you can just give a little bit more about what you do, about your business, that would be really amazing.
Sure. Pat, it's funny, in a former life, I helped work on the deals. I worked at Simon & Schuster and the deals that went into the General Mills cereal boxes, the books.
Okay.
And one year it happened right as the CPSIA came down. And, you know, we had staple binding and it had to all change. It's, oh boy. So I totally get it. The compliance stuff is, even with my business now, it's really, you know, Prop 65 and all those other things, and how different the testing requirements are country to country. But yeah, so and in Cocktail Kingdom, we supply barware, custom and branded, and we work e-commerce. We also do a lot of B2B. Our business has changed quite a bit, of course, this year. I mean, it's the year of the pivot, right? And if I hear that word again, I think I might scream, even though I just said it. But so Cocktail Kingdom had primarily focused on B2B with brands, liquor portfolios, and direct to bartenders and bars and restaurants. But of course, with bars and restaurants closing due to COVID-19, we had to make a huge shift this year in figuring out how then to capture another market, which would be the home consumer who now can't go to a bar, right? And then on the other side, of course, I own a bar and restaurant, and so seeing the sides of that. But it's you know, there've just been a lot of changes that have had to be made, and then of course, in terms of importing goods and compliance and things like that, definitely something that we also deal with, and things are ever changing, which is you know, can be difficult to navigate. But we were really lucky at Cocktail Kingdom. We came into the coronavirus down 80% in April, and now we're down single digits, which I never thought down would be the new up, but I'm pretty pleased with single digits as of right now.
Oh, that's very interesting insight about your business. Great. Let's move on to Jheen. Jheen, if you can share a little bit about your business and about yourself, that would be great.
Definitely. So, like you had introduced earlier, Susosu hydrogen water is all natural mineral water from the springs of South Korea, infused with extra molecular hydrogen for many different health benefits, such as it's an antioxidant, it's a good energy booster, and an inflammation fighter. So, you know, ever since I was a kid, I've always really believed in living a healthy lifestyle, really believed in preventative care as well. So, you know, biggest thing is, you know, on top of that, I've also been really, like, I would consider an innovator. So I've always, you know, been one of those guys that just look for the next big thing. And, you know, as you guys may know, right now, the biggest thing, I guess, in the water industry, premium water industry, is kind of alkaline water. So, you know, we discovered this thing based off of research, just finding this thing called hydrogen water. It's been a trend in Japan and, you know, a lot of East Asia countries since the 60s. So, you know, we wanted to really bring that awareness to the States and just really bring awareness of all the health benefits that come within the uniqueness of hydrogen water to the Western culture. So that's really our mission.
Wow, that's an amazing product that you got there. And I think right now, when preventive healthcare is one of the most important aspect to kind of sail through this situation, I think you got a really great market fit there, which is amazing. Great. So how was the business for you in the last 3 to 4 months? Have you seen any change in the number of customers that you have acquired, or what trends did you see in the last 3 to 4 months?
So for me, actually, it's crazy because ever since the pandemic really started hitting, I guess, the whole nation, which was around March Q2, started Q2, we've actually seen a 198% increase in
Wow,
revenue,
that's amazing.
um, because we really take pride in our marketing, especially with digital marketing. So, as you guys may know, the pandemic really brought out, the e-commerce world and just the rise of, big titans like Walmart, Amazon, and those guys. And we've actually partnered with them prior to the pandemic, and really seen an increase in those channels and just really overall online channels. So we've really been taking that and just kind of running off with it and just kind of really investing more into our digital marketing and just expanding our markets, our digital media presence overall. So
That's a tremendous growth you got there. I think
thank
I
you.
mean, with that kind of growth, your product can become the best one out there. And I think you must be having a lot of competition, but I think with this growth and with the amount of effort that you're putting into digital marketing, I think you can cover a lot, I think. I think you have millions of more customers that you might still need to acquire. And that's
Yep.
amazing. I think a lot of scale there available. Okay.
Yep.
Coming on to Pat. Pat, I think the business that you are in is kind of extremely important in terms of your business can actually offer the kind of help to entrepreneurs and businesses who are in the food and beverage industry to kind of make sure that they are able to follow all the compliance. So what is your take when, let's say, whenever any food and beverage business is growing, let's say when they start early, they may not be uh, adhering to, or probably the compliance thing may not be at the top of their mind. But let's say once they have reached a scale, what do you think is the best foot forward for them when, like, from the compliance perspective?
Well, I think when you first, whether you sell a little or a lot, you have to be in compliance. And I think that the business that Annie talked about, as well as the tremendous business that Jheen talked about, uh, begins with obviously a commercial plan to reach whatever markets, but then to assess um, the compliance requirements, because in some cases you will have a market opportunity, but the complexity and the cost of compliance to reach that market is just not worth it. Um, and that when you look at, let's say, the business, let's say rum cocktails or something like that, that when you try and sell rum cocktails in Mexico, there are standards of identity of what you can call a rum cocktail. And for Jheen, there are all sorts of requirements that are very different from country to country about how water can be packaged and the requirements that apply to the water. So I think the first thing when you have is obviously a commercial plan, but then you need to look at market segments and begin to plan a compliance strategy. And that compliance strategy needs to incorporate not only, as I mentioned, the regulatory requirements for the package and what's in the package, the coffee and the coffee cup, but to be able to then ask, are there important customers that will have additional requirements? So all of this is a fluid, changing market, and there is a great deal of change occurring. So I think as first steps, you need a roadmap of where you want to go, and that begins with the commercial side, but then you need a compliance roadmap as well. So, I think there are channel markets that Jheen's talking about, but a lot of our clients are now looking at spot market opportunities, what you might call lift and launch. And so if you've got a successful recipe in one market and then you want then you have the opportunity to sell through a distributor in another country or another market. You've got a spot market, but then you need to assess that very, very carefully to optimize whether it's worth it or not. So you've got online sales that Jheen's talking about, as well as offline sales. But in either case, you need the ability to assess the restrictions as well as the commercial opportunities and any barriers.
That's amazing. Very interesting insight there, Pat. And I think what you mentioned is really kind of struck a chord with me, because especially in times like this where food security is extremely essential, I think the compliance that businesses have to follow during these times might have become more tightened. Uh, so have you seen any change, or like the clients that you work with, the retail clients, which are either in the offline space or online space, uh, what have you seen? Like, have you seen their business? What kind of trends did you see in their business?
Well, I mean, as Annie talked about, with changes in the restaurant business uh, for beverage manufacturers, whether that's alcoholic or non-alcoholic, that's a highly profitable business because you're selling in bulk to in a B2B context to companies like Annie's. And some of that business has declined, and now they have to restructure those market sectors to look at package sales in a retail context. That's a completely different business, a total realignment. The other thing is on the supplier side that, in a number of cases, it's harder to get supply. I mean, we all can see that when you go to the grocery store and you try and find paper towels, but that's also true for a large beverage company that might have a dependency on a sweetener that they have to use in their soft drink. So, I think on both sides of the fence, there have been a massive tectonic shift in how to think about these problems, whether it's business continuity, whether it's market segment, or it's supply chain.
Wow, that's a great insight there, Pat. Absolutely. Uh, Annie, you as a business owner, and what are your thoughts on in the last 3 months, the way there has been a paradigm shift in the way things have changed. We are like, as a humanity, like going out to restaurant, eating out is like a normal thing, and suddenly that has taken a pause. So the online transition has happened. So what do you see like going forward, let's say in the next 1 year or next 2 year, what changes do you see where people will adopt and kind of go forward?
I mean, I certainly wish I had a crystal ball on that one. But like Pat was saying, the restrictions by market is one thing certainly we've had to look at. Another thing looking at from the barware side, right? When you're shifting to a consumer versus a professional bartender, professional bartender knows the tools that they need and use to, and they'll notice things like a fine strainer taking 15 seconds less to make a cocktail in high volume service makes a huge difference for, their night. But for consumer side, you have to look at what's the perceived value from a consumer side. What can consumers, identify with and use that's going to make sense to market to them. And then also looking at the markets you're looking to sell into, because in addition to compliance, also, importing into various markets. One that I just found out this week, everything into the Bahamas, every single thing is a 45% duty, right? So, does that kill yours or your client's margin? And then in addition to shifting on-premise versus off-premise, in the alcohol world, it's really interesting because in the on-premise world, there's a much greater variety of spirits that people are open to trying, right? Because if you have a cocktail bartender who you trust, who says, Well, I know you normally drink Jim Beam, but maybe you should try Woodford Reserve today because, you know, it's got a little different kind of bourbon that you might actually like better, or any kind of example in that fashion. That's a pretty easy sell when you're buying a $12 cocktail. But moving the shift into off premise, it's hard to get a consumer to go into a liquor store and spend $60 on a bottle of booze that they're not, you know, that they've never maybe tried before.
Right.
It's a little big brand, most people have tried, but so in general, then you look at dealing with liquor portfolios that are typically buying branded and custom barware for me to gift to on-premise bartenders in order to utilize their spirits more, which in the US cannot be done explicitly. We can't pay to play here. You can pay to play in other parts of the world. But either way, it's, you know, the gifting still happens. But then when that all stops, so then where they have to focus on off-premise or liquor store or home to consumer marketing, then you have to look at companies and shifting your focus towards things like home cocktail kits, where we've seen that, where you can go on a site, you know, there's Cocktail Courier's the first one that's coming to mind, but they make beautiful kits and you get the booze and you get the recipe and you get the ingredients and then you can get the tools too. These are accounts we never even worked with pre-COVID. My hope in the shift moving forward is that on the consumer side, I always tend to say that consumers, when they learn, don't shift backwards, right? So consumers are never going to go back to Sanka and frozen mixed vegetables as an okay for a restaurant. And I'm probably dating myself, but you know, once the coffee and the farm to table kind of came to consumers' eyes, consumers they don't then roll back on that. So my hope is that consumers, now that they sort of have to make their own decisions in order to be creative at home when they can't go out, that they're, as things do reopen, will become a more educated consumer going into bars and restaurants, so that their expectations will be higher, and, you know, everybody will be forced to elevate. No, I dream of a world where there's no sour mix, right? Like, so, you know, things like that. And so what I'm hoping is that this time at home is going to ultimately create a more educated consumer, so that when they do go back out, we can keep both sides of the business. Obviously, I think a lot of it's dependent on getting a vaccine for this thing. But you know, I love an educated consumer, because if you have a good product and your consumer's educated, that's, to me, the best marriage of two things.
Wow, that's really a great insight there. Absolutely. And you really touched upon that point about, because every customer, irrespective of the product or service that they are buying, there is a learning curve. So I think with the present time, customers are becoming more and more research oriented. Like, people want to know about the product or the service that they're buying into, and then the adoption happens very, very easily. So I think you really touched upon that insight there. Amazing. Jheen, I want to come back to you, and I want to ask, like, when you started this business, you entered into a very niche market, and I think
Yep.
the product that you have is kind of has a USP. And so how do you differentiate yourself from the competition? Like, how do you what strategies do you adopt to grow your business, so if you can share some stories or any particular strategy that you have adopted, which can help a new business?
Well, so luckily for us, well, overall in the beverage industry, obviously it's really, you know, saturated. There's a lot of competitors, but like you said, this is really niche specific. And right now, off the top of my head, I think there's about 5 or 6 main players in this hydrogen water industry. But really what differentiates us, you know, is that we're trying to be the innovators and the educators, you know, to the nationwide audience. We also believe that our quality is more superior. Obviously, that's a little biased coming from me, but you know, we're the only hydrogen water brand in the nation that's actually made in Asia, imported from Asia, which is where it originated from. In addition to that, we're the only ones made from all natural mineral water as opposed to purified water. So, you know, on top of the benefits that the molecular hydrogen gives you, we have benefits coming from the actual mineral water itself. So that's really that. But just, I would say the biggest differentiator between us and the other brands, I would say, and our competitors is that we're approaching this digital marketing strategy in a different way than I would say the other competitors. I feel like we're attacking it a lot more aggressively than the competitors, knowing that e-commerce is the future. So we're really investing a lot of our time, a lot of our, budget into just marketing, digital marketing, just finding channels of distribution. And by distribution, I mean online distribution. So
Okay.
that's really, yeah.
So currently you have a strong presence on the online front, right? You built your online presence.
Yes.
Okay, great. And what channels, like when you are doing the digital marketing, what channels do you prefer the most? Is it to acquire new customers? Is it Facebook?
So,
Is it Google? Is it Instagram? What works best for you? What has worked for you so far, and what more you're thinking going forward?
it all depends on your marketing goal. Various channels work differently. I would say for social media, it's better for brand awareness. You can't really expect too much conversions from social media, but as far as like conversions, that kind of stuff, you would probably have to look into, Amazon advertising, which is really big. As you guys may know, Amazon's really been growing since the pandemic, obviously. So we invest a lot into Google advertising as well. But, you know, being a millennial, obviously, this is also biased. My favorite channel is social media. So we really like attacking the social media platforms, mainly Instagram and Facebook. So,
Amazing, amazing. That's great, great.
yep.
Pat, I would like to kind of come back to this question. Whenever any food and beverage business, like any entrepreneur who wants to venture into food and beverage business, let's say in the beginning, what challenges do they face when in terms of the compliance thing? Probably uh, compliance may start from the very beginning. So what do you think? How they can tackle these issues? Like how they
How long
can?
you got, Pat?
Yeah, Pat can probably answer that a lot better than I can.
Yes, yes, Pat. Yeah.
Well, uh, it's a multifaceted question, and I am
Maybe
always
if we take the example of, let's say, Gene's business, probably the niche that he is in, probably when he might have started, what do you think the challenges that he might have faced? And kind
well.
of,
I think that in both of those, in both Annie's case and in Jean's case, uh, you know, first you start with a business plan. For me, uh, it worked a little differently because I always found that the customers, and I tried to get early adopter customers or clients, and that I always found that those early adopter customers were smarter than I was or anyone on my team. And so they gave us the great ideas. And I suspect that that's also true for Gene's business, that when you start to build a concept and you get people interested in it, obviously capital plays a part of where you want to go and how far you can go. But you need to have a way to combine both the personal aspects of reaching out to thought leaders who will give you ideas of the direction that you want to go, as well as the mechanics, whether that's compliance management or marketing management. But you've got the mechanical part, the financial part, and then the roadmap of where you want to go and how fast you can go. One of the problems of small businesses is trying to grow too fast. As you know, from a finance 101 standpoint, if you start to grow then with big projects that you take on, well, that requires cash. So that cash, you may have the business, but you may not have the cash to execute. From a compliance management standpoint, when you want, suddenly you have a new market, but then you've got to register the product. Well, the registration may take you a month, it may take you 6 months or whatever. So the speed at which you go has to be moderated by an acceptance of a minimum viable product and a minimum viable marketing plan. And so I think that those factors come together with some common sense. I am not a millennial, and I have made a career out of all of the mistakes that I've made. And so, but I think that I have huge respect for the courage, Annie and Jheen, the courage to begin to try and do something different. And I think now more than ever, the key is trying to understand what the consumer trends are, because once you make that decision to launch, you're launching into the future, and you're going to land in the future in some place and hope that the market is there that you expected it to be. But a lot of times developers are a little too eager, and that customers are a little bit skeptical of the benefits, whether it's in a bar or it's hydrogenated water. And so I think trying to make the right pieces come together in a practical sense, so that there is a way where you can grow through stages and succeed without falling in a hole.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really great insight there. And Annie, I have one question for you. So as an entrepreneur, when you started this business, you must have made few mistakes. If you can share any mistake that from which you got a chance to learn a lot, and probably after fixing that mistake, you saw like something positive coming out of it. If you can share any story about it, that would be really amazing.
Well, so let me think. So by the way, I'm not a millennial. I'm close, but I am not. But just, so Cocktail Kingdom, I work for. I was its fifth employee. I don't own the company. In terms of my bar and restaurant, I'm sure we've made a lot of mistakes. One that comes to mind, which is sort of less a mistake and maybe a strategy that I didn't quite realize at first when we opened, is that the millennials, for my apologies for throwing all of you into the same group. I think for a long time, a restaurant could survive on it's good drinks, it's good food, it's good service, and the price is right, and the location's right, right? And it seems to me now that with the rise of social media, that the younger crowd the 20s and 30s crowd that's going out, they need an experience. It can't just be good food and drinks. It has to be something that I can take a picture of or with that makes it look like I'm having even more fun than I am. Even whether I am or not is almost irrelevant, which is something we found really, really interesting. So the presentation of food and cocktails, the presentation of your menu, the creativity with the decor and the different activations you do, so that that people can come in and take a photo and it looks like the most fun thing ever, whether it's lighting drinks on fire or having the cool neon sign or the various sort of pop-up activations or things like that. I think everything now needs to be an experience. It's not just dinner out. And so, now we're learning even more, of course, with the takeout business and different things we can do. For example, we do a Halloween theme for the month of October. And so we're trying to figure out different ways with the takeout thing, what we can do. So you take something out and maybe it's a box and you get this little like bat thing that flies out of it when you get home, so that it still feels like when people get home, if they're not dining out, right, that they can still have what feels like an experience. I think that we need to curate more of an experience rather than just providing a product anymore. And I think that that was something that I didn't anticipate maybe when opening the business.
Wow, that's amazing. I think, yeah, I think because converting like or kind of making the consumer to adopt to this new experience, it's basically taking the whole offline experience in a cocktail bar and taking that home. It's a big transition, and I think packaging and everything is going to play a pivotal role there. And I think
Absolutely.
once people starts adopting it, that's like a really cool innovation because if
Yeah,
you
and I
can,
also think it's especially with this and that people are stuck home. You know, one of the nice things about the the art of the cocktail specifically is that there's some ceremony to it, right? So, you know, it's not just okay. I've had a long day either on unemployment or working at home. Let me just crack open a beer. The ceremony of okay, now it's the cocktail hour and I'm going to create this and I'm going to make it, I'm going to shake it or stir it, I'm going to garnish it, I'm going to get out my nice coupe glasses and or my rock sauces and my big clear cubes of ice, and it becomes something that sort of breaks up the groundhog day. And I think that in and of itself also it feels a bit experiential, and I think that people need that. Otherwise it's this endless monotony of being at home, um, that people are frankly getting fairly sick of, I think, or at least I know I am.
yes, that's right. I think these are those unpredictable events that has happened once in a lifetime. But I think these are the times where a lot of new innovations are coming up, and it's all about experiences. Ultimately, how people can take those offline experiences at their home, and I think you as brand custodians have a huge opportunity as well as a huge responsibility altogether, so that the whole experience can become sustainable. Like it has to feel and because as a consumer, when someone is going for that takeout from you, they should feel like, okay, I'm going to get the same experience at my home. So that's really one insight that I could pick it up from what you have shared. uh, Jheen, while you are running this business, what are the challenges that you currently face, or that you think that you have to overcome as an entrepreneur going forward?
I would say the biggest challenge is just really getting the awareness out there. Just a lot of people, I guess, not really knowing about hydrogen water. It's fairly new market around the U.S. So our biggest challenge would be educating the consumer on the new market, and then basically positioning ourselves as the leading expert in the industry. So I think that would be probably one of the biggest challenges for our industry or for our business personally. But for, I would say, for the e-commerce world, the biggest challenge for us is, just dealing with the 3PLs, the third party logistic companies. So that's probably the hardest, because knowing that you don't have control of your customer orders, you know, we're the ones that invested all the money into the marketing to really converting that lead into a conversion. And then knowing that that customer can kind of, just have a bad experience just because of the third party logistics company
Right, the
that
mercy of the drop shipper, right?
exactly, because, or maybe the packaging might not be up to standard, our standard as a company. So it's just, in the end of the day, I can't reach out to the customer and say, oh, it was our third party logistics company's fault. It's like, in the end of the day, our brand is responsible for it.
Yeah.
And it's our responsibility to
So
really,
your fault.
Yes.
yeah, it is basically to really fix a relationship, whatever the case may be. So
Absolutely. Yeah,
definitely.
that's really true. And in fact, I think in the online space, I think the last mile delivery defines the experience. I think so. As an entrepreneur, I think as every e-commerce brand, I think faces this toughest challenge that, okay, they're able to create the experience on their online store, and but if the last experience goes for a toss, the consumer gets annoyed. And I think that's the biggest challenge. I think no matter what I think the only thing that can be fixed there is how to make sure that the logistic partners that we have the knowledge about the like carrying the package correctly till it reaches the consumers, and especially in food and beverage industry where if this on offline to online shift that is happening, where logistics is extremely essential. So
Yeah.
that's really amazing point that you shared there. uh, uh,
And
Go ahead.
yeah, and that's just going on to your point, I think that's something a lot of the food and beverage companies really have to adapt to, is the e-commerce business, and just knowing that we're not selling socks or t-shirts that can really just be sent out to the customers in one piece. It's like we've had so many situations where the 3PL might package it a certain way, and then our customer receives it like squished, or one of the pouches might be damaged, and that's like the hardest part for our business.
Amazing,
Well,
amazing.
I think it was an interesting point
Yep.
made by Jheen as well as Annie. You need to curate the customer's experience. And Jheen, what you're talking about when the package arrived and it's squished is not curating the customer experience. And whether that's in your business or in, industrial manufacturing meetings, I think that concept of curating the experience in a post-COVID economy requires a lot of innovation and thought. I mean, more than at any other time, I spend more time on Zoom meetings than I have ever in my life contemplated.
Yeah.
And the day is just gone. And when you look at large manufacturers, the senior management wants an 80-20 solution. They want to reduce costs, they want to control budgets, and they reduce costs by saying, no, we're not going to hire anyone. So the problems remain. All of these Zoom meetings don't help. And so what do you do? And in our situation, we've tried to understand that we need to curate the delivery perhaps of advisories just to help with consulting services in a different way, as well as to be able to help with enterprise integration, where you're trying to get systems to help manage or support certain decision-making processes. So I think that concept of curating the customer experience is at every level required, and so different now in a post-COVID world. It's really difficult. And at the end of the day, it's all about relationships and personal interactions. That those are the key, and ensuring that your customer, your client, believes that you're there to help and correct any problems that exist.
Absolutely, Pat. That's an
100%.
amazing point. And uh, I think consumers are the king, no matter which business we are in. And so, Annie, Jean, Pat, I have this one question that keeps on coming to my mind. How do you listen to your customers in terms of you must be having hundreds and thousands of customers, and the feedback that comes from the customers is like a treasure hunt. So what tools do you use, or how do you translate your customer feedback to kind of improve your product or service? Let me start with Annie.
Well, I think for one thing, I don't know, one of the sort of, you use the old sort of a call into a radio show trick, right? If you get one piece of feedback from one customer, whether that's a restaurant guest or it's a corporate client or whatever, chances are, if it's not so specific to them, that more people are thinking that, right? So you kind of have to think of those as exponential, and try to tackle it before things would get out of control. With what Jheen said with third-party marketers, it's very hard, because when a lot of the time those companies want you to sort of do all of the work for them, right? They want you to, drop ship, do this, do that, whatever. And then at the same time, if their customer service on their end isn't spot on, they're still mad. The end customer is still mad at you, and you can't really throw them under the bus. So it's this interesting thing. Ultimately, I think, while all of this technology, of course, has helped us through a COVID or post-COVID world, and it sure has. I mean, I can't imagine a world without the internet right now, right? And but at the same time, ultimately, it's personal relationships, like what Pat said, that have to drive everything. Because if you form a personal relationship with, let's call it a third-party fulfillment company, and they've spoken to you and they know how much you care about your product and they get it, people are still human. Ultimately, you're still looking at human relationships with just people on people. And if they know that you care, and that you also care if they have a problem, whatever that problem is, or their customer has a problem, then that tends to, I think, reflect how they view your product and how they're going to treat it. And so, again, while all the technology things are great, ultimately, what's helped us the most in terms of sort of reworking the businesses it's connecting with people and getting creative and trying to all care together and figure out what you can do to back our way out of this, before things go back to normal.
Amazing. Excellent insight there. Yeah. Jheen, like, how do you listen to your customers? Like, how do you get their feedback, and any particular feedback that has helped tremendously while running the business, Jheen?
Definitely. So, well, starting off with the unsatisfied customers, usually they reach out to us, via our support email. So we keep a track record of all the unsatisfied customers and really kind of do an analysis, I would say quarterly, on what kind of issues do we have in our operations. And then that's when we really, kind of just have that quarterly meeting and just figure out solutions to make the customer experience a lot better. Going on to what Pat and Annie said, it's really about curating an experience for these customers that they'll never forget. So, and that's really what brings customer retention. So we do that. After sending orders, we send out, I would say about a week later, we would send out a survey for our customers to really get live feedback, whether it's bad or good. And then we usually have someone from our team analyze that as well. So, biggest thing about us is that we want to create a customer experience. We want to treat all our customers like their family, basically. As cliche as that sounds, we want to make sure that the experience is flawless. They like the product, and essentially just be the Chick-fil-A of e-commerce. So.
That's amazing. That's a great thing that you are doing there. I think listening to the consumer feedback and quarterly kind of reviewing it and fixing it. That's amazing.
Caring, just care.
Yeah.
Care. Everybody needs
care about
care.
your customers.
For sure.
How about you, Pat? Like I think you are like into this business where you are actually kind of helping the businesses to kind of comply, and you have tools and platform that can help them in this fashion. So what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think that there are three ways in which we try and understand customer needs. One is picking up the phone and talking to the customer, also at different levels, to ensure that they feel that you're there for them and that you want to help, as well as to harvest ideas. The second is through KPIs. And like Jheen, we have a ticketing system where any customer issues, bugs, whatever, flows in, whether that's a request for consulting or it's a systems interaction. We spend a lot of time on these key performance indicators. I think the other part is to try and identify priorities for the future. Where do we put effort? And that comes into predictive trend analysis. I mean, we have a major effort on big data. And what we do is monitor regulatory agencies, non-governmental organizations, social media, around the world in 40 different languages. And then we collect that. And so we process millions of pages every day across these 40 different languages, across key terms that might relate to substances, commodities, products. It might be rum drinks or rum cocktails, or or it might be carcinogenicity. And out of this, try and understand what's hot and what's not, where are things going. For example, a trend is toward clean label, meaning a minimal label. Well, that minimal label effort followed a major move by the market away from artificial ingredients. So you can see these trends moving. And so they tell you what to emphasize and how to interact, because those are indicators for the future. And so we try and take those three ways. One, just talking to people. The second, through having systems for that support KPIs. And third, this kind of an ability to read into the future. And that's very important, because when you look at whether it's a chemical company or a cosmetics company, they want to understand which ingredients of their products might cause a reformulation event or a brand reputational issue. So looking at those things dynamically is very important today, because that allows you to curate the future.
That's excellent. That's a very great piece of advice there. Absolutely, that. Great. I would like to take your attention to a very important aspect in any business, especially in e-commerce, retail, food and beverage, which is customer engagement and retention. And for this, I would like to ask this question. This is a poll question. So I'm launching the poll. You can answer it. Do you know which customers are you losing in your business? So you have a ton of insight, like you have a lot of data points about your business, but do you really get to know which customers are you losing or which customers you are about to lose? Because this is like this is like a piece of puzzle that many businesses fail to kind of understand. And because acquiring a new customer is extremely difficult, so losing would be terrible. So I think if you guys are able to answer it, that's great. So let me end the poll and share the result. Okay. All right. So that's an interesting insight there. So we got 67% people who said yes and 33% people who said no. So because we often notice that consumer engagement and retention goes hand in hand. And anytime a business focuses on acquiring new customers, like when they want to scale up, probably the churn rate kind of keeps on increasing as they acquire new customers. So how do you think there can be a balance between engagement and retention? So starting with you, Annie, what do you think? Like, how do you manage your retention? How do you engage with your consumers?
I don't really think anything changes other than in terms of scalability is really just is a time and labor issue. I think anybody that's been sold like a crummy car deal or something like that burn me once and then I'm done, right? If you're focusing on a model where you're trying to convince someone and push them into whatever sale it is, whatever product it is, and ultimately you're not following through with your end of the bargain, you're not going to retain anybody. And that will last you for a certain amount of time, but at some point, that's going to flip over and flip over and flip over until there's sort of no more customers left, right? So I think it's just a matter of treating every client as well as you can, as important as you can. And I really do think the communication and caring, as sort of sharing and caring as that sounds, ultimately it is important. If someone has negative feedback, if someone has positive feedback, actually saying, hey, thank you, especially particularly on things like social media platforms, where I think on some level people think they're just throwing things out into the ether. But then when they realize that, the owner of the company or the head of the company is reading that and writing you back and saying, hey, I'm sorry that this wasn't perfect. How can we fix it? Or thank you so much for your kind words. You've no idea how much they mean to us. People are continuously shocked to hear from us on that kind of thing. And I really do think it matters on forming a community of customers, which ultimately then trickles down through word of mouth, especially in the restaurant business when you're talking about an actual physical local community. But just in general, the world is pretty interconnected. And I really do think just the caring and communication really absolutely makes a difference. And of course, I'm sure there are things at times that have slipped through the cracks in every business, but but ultimately actually making a concerted effort to do your best on that kind of thing, and make sure your customer service teams are doing the customer service that they need to be doing. It'll separate, especially from e-commerce companies specifically, when I think it's something goes wrong with let's call it Facebook, and you cannot get a person. There are no humans that work there seemingly. Being able to reach out to a company and actually get a human who will email you or call you or reach out quickly to solve a problem, say thank you. I think that stuff still ultimately really still matters.
That's amazing. Yeah. How about you, Jheen? What do you think about engagement and retention? What about, like, since you saw a tremendous jump in the last 4 to 5 months where you acquired these new customers, how do you plan on retaining them? What is the strategy that you are adopting? How do you plan on making sure that the repeat purchases continue from these new acquired customer? What do you think?
Yeah, so, you're going to see a lot of returning customers either because they really loved your product off, most of the times it's first impressions, or because they truly believe in your brand value practices, and it kind of believes or it matches what they stand for. So it's either that, or you just provide them with flawless customer experience. So, biggest thing with customer retention is, and I think we've been saying this throughout the whole, webinar, is just, creating a customer experience that's flawless, making sure that the end customer got everything they needed and more. So I think retention is definitely important, especially in the e-commerce world, now that everything's so transparent to the people. Going on to like what Annie said, like you see reviews, and a lot of reviews really, I would say, persuade a person to either buy the product or not buy the product. So it's like, it's really important to really take care of your customers and ensure that, that once they're taken care of, they'll take care of your business. They'll refer your product. They'll provide that good review, and all that is, it's unmeasurable, but it's very valuable, especially for an e-commerce business like ours. So
That's excellent. Amazing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it, Pat? What do you think how food and beverage businesses can manage this balance between engagement and retention? Do you have, like, since you're working with a lot of food and beverage brands, do you have any experience that you would like to share about any particular brand?
Well, our business, yes, we have online sales, but most of our customers and clients occur through recurring revenue streams in a subscription model. And that means that, with an annual license, it's absolutely critical to be able to identify someone who's having problems. Well, you do that through basically two ways. One is to ensure that you have customer relationship management so the customer is engaged, and the companion of that are the KPIs, but also to anticipate problems. If you, by analogy, in the cell phone business, there are patterns of user behavior that allow you to anticipate if that customer is going to cancel their contract. So trying to understand the patterns in any business where you can anticipate problems, not only through the personal interactions, but having some systematic methodologies to have some trigger points where you go, well, something might be going on here, and then you can reach out, because the point at which someone has made a decision is a point of no return. They're gone. You want to catch them before they made that decision, and that's the key to customer management, I think.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I think churn rate, if any food and beverage business is able to manage the churn rate, they can have a phenomenal growth and sustainable growth, I can say. Great. I have one more poll question for you guys and for the audience as well. Are you getting enough ROI from your digital marketing and ad spend? Like, what do you think about the ad spend that you do or the marketing budget that you have? Does it get spent and you are getting enough returns on it? How do you see return on investment? Okay, let me just end the poll and yeah, the results. Okay, let me share it. Oh, okay. Almost, wow, that's almost everyone thinks that they are not getting enough ROI. I mean, what do you think, Annie and Jheen, like what can be done there so that, because the traditional channels, like currently the channels which are available for any food and beverage business to connect with the consumers is definitely all the social channels. But these social channels are kind of creating a lot of noise. And do you think you are able to reach out to the right target audience? Like, what channel has worked for you so far, or any other new channel that do you think would really work? Like TikTok, for example, has kind of made its way there as an additional channel. But do you think a traditional channel like Facebook ads or Google ads or Instagram ads or YouTube ads, why do you think they may not be working? Are the ads getting too annoying for the users? Like, I don't know. I mean, I just wanted to take your opinion or thought on that.
I mean, I'm not sure that, I think it's an interesting question. I'm not sure that it's necessarily not working. I think ROI and quantifiable ROI are totally different things. It is very difficult with any kind of marketing to really pinpoint a conversion rate unless it's so specific and strictly, I'm going to push this one product on this and then follow the sort of the click-throughs. But for us at Cocktail Kingdom, we have too many products, and for us, not too many, but we have a large catalog. On the restaurant side of things, it's always difficult to tell what, is it because I promoted it and then it went to word of mouth? Is it because of this? Is it, the variables are endless, right? At the end of the day, there's a reason people do digital marketing and advertising. If it didn't work at all, no one would do it. I just think the ROI side of it is always going to be tricky. And so you have to be careful, and you set a budget, and
which channel has worked for you best in like since the inception of your business? And since you started digital marketing, which channel has worked best for you to connect with your audience? Is it
I mean,
Facebook? Is it
for Cocktail Kingdom, I think in terms of any kind of conversion, it's, you know, Google keywords and things like that, marketing Amazon and things for, and then press, you know, every time we're in sort of the New York Times or a big publication, we see a measurable uptick. Ditto on the restaurant side, I would say Facebook and Instagram, depending on your demographic a little bit older for Facebook, a little bit younger for Instagram. So depending on what we're trying to do and who we're trying to get in, we sort of lean one way or another. Trying to stay engaged without putting ads, I think, in front of people is helpful. Show them something fun, not you have to buy this. And then of course, you know, Yelp and Google and those things too, you know, you just trying to keep your customers informed, making it easy for them to see what's available. How do I get it? When is it open? Ease of use in that kind of thing. But again, quantifiable ROI. I mean, if somebody could fully figure that out on all platforms, I would love to know, but I haven't quite figured it out myself, but you know, it's helpful. It's certainly helpful. It's just there's a lot of variables, especially on the restaurant side.
right? So I think it's like all the channels like somehow has worked for you. Like not like there's not a single channel that can work. It's basically all the channels, and the more the best. That's amazing.
It's engagement.
Pat,
I think engagement.
engagement, amazing. Yeah. Pat, for you as a compliance platform for the food and beverage industry, like how do you see like what has worked for you in terms of marketing and what kind of strategies do you adopt for getting the best ROI?
Marketing has changed tremendously for us during this COVID period. As you can well imagine, industry trade shows and conferences are a method of outreach and marketing, and they don't exist anymore, or they're only in a virtual platform. The key in this kind of industry is to try and identify someone who has been already thinking about a compliance need and has the budget to carry that out. I think trying to blindly reach out through some marketing campaign where you're not only trying to convince the person of your service or system, but also convince that person that he or she has a need, that makes it doubly difficult. So, you know, the idea is to somehow, through some methods, to find the people who are already trying to search for a solution. In the past, that's been through trade shows and similar events, as well as, you know, some limited advertising or marketing. So we've found those to be the most effective, and not so much digital marketing, but now in this new world, how do you carry out trade shows? Will people attend trade shows? You know, how do you market? It's completely, everything is upside down.
True. That's true. That's true. Yeah, the conventional way of doing things have definitely changed, and the way things are happening, it's all going virtual, it's all going online. And I think going forward, with the way these new technologies are coming in, augmented reality and virtual reality, they are going to play a pivotal role in consumer engagement. That's kind of happening there. There's a company, Magic Leap, which has already built a product on mixed reality, where we'll be able to, we may not be needing a phone. Maybe a phone can pop out of thin air. And similarly, I think these experiences that Annie has mentioned earlier, for example, the food that people are ordering or what they're going to get, maybe if they can be presented to the consumers in the augmented reality, that can really make a big difference in the conversions out there. Yeah. Jheen, what do you think? Like, since you have been doing a lot of digital marketing, how do you see the ROI that you are getting? Do you see there is an opportunity for you to improve your ROI?
Well, to answer the question that from the poll, maybe you're not getting the proper, I guess, like ROI is maybe because you're expecting, I don't know, a conversion in the wrong platform that you shouldn't really be expecting a conversion. It all depends on what you consider an ROI. Let's just say I'm running a marketing campaign on Facebook to really just get email leads, right? It's like if I spend X amount of dollars and I get this many email leads, I'm probably getting the ROI that I like wanted to get. So just going back with digital marketing, it's like sales is short term, marketing is a long term thing, and you got to spend money to make money. I would say biggest thing with people when they say, oh, I'm not getting the proper ROI is because, well, how long have you really been running that campaign? How many times have you really optimized and analyzed the data to really say that I didn't get the ROI that I deserved on this campaign? So, and that's one of the things we had to really learn in our early stages is really being patient with marketing, really actually utilizing the data for future campaigns and just even to improve the campaign performance. So I would say biggest thing is just optimization. If you really want that ROI from whatever marketing campaign that you may go for. For us, to be honest, the best marketing for us has really been Amazon marketing. That's really a channel where you can really see an immediate ROI. So
Wow,
just because of how big the platform is.
that's excellent insight because, yeah, I think Amazon is really picking up pace there in terms of advertisement, and it's a great platform. The amount of traffic that they're driving in, it's a great place where product discovery can easily happen. So while we are coming to an end of this panel discussion, I have one question for all of you. What is the one piece of advice that you would like to give to budding entrepreneurs in the food and beverage industry who want to start a business and grow their business? What is that one piece of advice? What is that one strategy that they can adopt? If we can share in brief, that would be great. Maybe I can start with Annie.
Sure. I would say
It's a difficult question though.
it is. It is. Loaded question. Thanks a lot. No. Don't just focus on what you're good at, right? You're good at what you're good at. Look at all the sides of the business. Try to, if possible, do at least in part every job that's required to run your company, and get a proper P&L.
Okay, great. How about you, Jheen? What's your piece of advice? Like, you started at a very early age, and I think you have miles to go. So, what is one piece of advice that you have?
I mean, just if you plan on entering the food and beverage industry, just know that it's a very competitive industry. Just know what you're signing up for, and really just be consistent and persistent. It rhymed. So yeah,
That's a great one. Yeah, persistence, perseverance and persistence. Amazing. Pat, I think last words of wisdom from you.
Well, I think that entrepreneurs need to be confident but practical, and realize that your customers are a lot smarter than you are, and that you need to listen to your customers. So I think it's trying to find that balance where you have a practical product that you're delivering at some initial stage that isn't something that is a moonshot that takes you too far and is too complicated, but you have to have confidence in your own ideas and be able to carry those forward.
Excellent piece of
Confidence, not
advice,
ego,
Pat.
right?
Yes, yeah. Excellent, guys, and it's really fantastic to get a chance to interact with you. And I think this session has been wonderful in terms of the amount of ideas and insights that you have shared. The advice that you guys have mentioned in the end, perseverance uh, and persistence, and listening to your consumers, being practical about how to transition or how to kind of translate the experience or how you can take the experiences to the consumers, no matter what the situations are, is going to define the growth and sustainability for any food and beverage business. Uh, this is what we are looking for. And I think as consumers, so we are either a consumer or either we are the provider of that product or service. So I think it's when we are on the other side, that's when we get to know that how important that is. With this, I think we are coming to an end. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you so much, Annie, for taking out time today and being in this panel. Thank you so much, Jheen. Thank you so much, Pat. You guys have been uh, excellent, and we really look forward to learning a lot. And I think we can touch upon some other points maybe in the future panel discussions. I think while I was having a conversation with Pat, compliance itself is a very big topic, and I think that is something that we can touch in the future panel discussions. So with
Yeah, it's
this,
really a pleasure to listen to Annie and Jheen. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
all right. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank-